This happened about 6 years ago when I was 22. My best friend, Andrew, and I had just finished grad school and wanted to do one big trip before we got sucked into full-time jobs. Neither of us had ever been to Eastern Europe, so we figured we'd backpack through a few cities we'd only ever seen in travel blogs. We weren't dumb, but we were definitely naive excited to get that authentic experience without realizing how quickly things can go sideways when you're far from home. We flew into Budapest, then made our way through Slovakia, and eventually into Romania. By the time we reached Bucharest, our money was running low, so we started cutting corners. Cheap Airbnbs, overnight trains instead of hostels, and street food instead of restaurants. Honestly, it was still great. But the last place we booked ended up being one of the most unnerving experiences of my life. It was this old apartment we found online for practically nothing. The photos were grainy, but it was walking distance from the old town, so we figured why not? When we showed up, the building looked abandoned. Half the windows were boarded up, and the lobby was pitch black except for one flickering bulb. There was no front desk, just a rusted door with a number scribbled on a piece of paper taped to it. Inside, it was worse. The hallways smelled damp, and we could hear water dripping somewhere in the distance. Our unit was on the 4th floor, down a long corridor with peeling wallpaper and doors that looked like they hadn't been opened in years. Andrew tried to laugh it off, but even he admitted it felt like something out of a horror movie. The apartment itself was bare bones. A single bed, a couch that looked like it had been dragged in from the street, and a cracked mirror on the wall. But we were tired, so we told ourselves it was just part of the adventure. That night, things got weird. Around 2 a.m., I woke up to the sound of heavy footsteps in the hallway. At first, I thought it was just another tenant, but then I realized the footsteps kept stopping right outside our door. They'd pause for a few seconds, then continue again, slow, deliberate, like whoever it was wanted us to know they were there. Andrew was awake too. We just lay there in silence, listening. Then came the sound of something brushing against the door, like fingers trailing across the wood. After a few minutes, it stopped. Neither of us slept after that. The next day, we debated leaving, but money was tight and it was only for one more night. We spent most of the day wandering the city, trying not to think about it. By the time we got back, it was late and we were exhausted. Against our better judgment, we stayed. Sometime after midnight, Andrew shook me awake. He was pale, whispering that someone was in the hallway again. This time, instead of footsteps, we heard voices. Low, murmuring voices in Romanian right outside our door. I couldn't understand a word, but the tone made my stomach drop. It wasn't casual conversation. It sounded like they were arguing quietly about something involving us. Then, slowly, the doorknob began to turn. Andrew jumped up and shoved the couch against the door just as the knob rattled harder. Whoever it was didn't knock, didn't speak, they just tried to force it open. After what felt like forever, the sound stopped. We sat there in total silence, hearts pounding, until we heard the footsteps retreat down the hall. We didn't sleep. At sunrise, we grabbed our bags and got out of there. On our way down, I noticed for the first time that most of the doors on our floor had no locks. Some were even slightly ajar, revealing empty, gutted apartments inside. Ours was the only one that had been renovated enough to look livable. When we handed the keys to the old woman who managed the building, she barely looked at us, but I swear she smirked when she saw how fast we left. I'll never know who was outside our door that night or what they wanted, but I'm convinced we weren't just being paranoid. Andrew and I agreed never to talk about it much after. We just wanted to forget. But I'll tell you this, I don't care how cheap it is, I will never stay in an abandoned-looking building overseas again.